I had just returned from a trip to Central America, and I was coming through customs at the Detroit airport. And I came up to the guy at the stand, and he looked at my passport and my papers, and he said, "You were in Guatemala?" And I said, "Yes, I was." He said, "Well, what were you doing there?" And I said, "Well, I'm a Catholic priest, and I was doing some missionary work." He looked at me and he said, "You're a Catholic priest. Can you name the 12 stations of the cross?" I said, "Sir, of course I can, but actually there are 14 of them." He looked at me and said, "You can go." Now, I don't know if he was trying to trick me, saying there's only 12, but there are 14. You can count them, but not while I'm talking. But if he thought there were only 12, in a sense, that's an honest mistake, because number 12 is the death of Jesus. Jesus dies on the cross, and he kind of got stopped right there. But the church doesn't stop with the death of Jesus. The 13th station, Jesus is taken down from the cross, placed in the arms of his loving mother, which has been a source of inspiration for great works of art like the Pietà through the centuries. And then the 14th station, Jesus is placed in the tomb, the stone is rolled in front, and the people withdraw. In recent years, however, there's been kind of a gentle proposal, movement, that says we should have a 15th station. A 15th station that says, and he rose from the tomb. He rose again to new life. Resurrection, Easter Sunday, that's what we're celebrating today. But if you listen to the gospel passage from John, which I just read, it's interesting. It doesn't really talk about Jesus. You know, Jesus is depicted throughout the four gospels. He's preaching, he's healing people, he's leading the disciples, he's talking to people in so many ways. And here we come to arguably the most important moment of the entire gospel, and he's not in the scene. In a sense, Jesus is a no-show. They come to the tomb, and the tomb is empty. Isn't it amazing? Now, there are plenty of stories of Jesus' appearance after resurrection. We'll have those in subsequent weeks. But today, on the Feast of Easter, the resurrection, Jesus is not in the story. What did they see? They saw an empty tomb. Now, without the gift of faith, an empty tomb could have been a sign of despair. It could have been like, what else could go wrong? He has already died on the cross, now we can't find the body. What else could go wrong? Instead, it becomes a sign of great hope and belief and strength. We've heard the line. We've all heard the line. Seeing is believing. But what did they see? They saw an empty tomb. They saw the burial cloths lying there and the one that had covered his face. They saw where Jesus had been. But they didn't see him. Maybe we should turn it around. Instead of seeing is believing, believing is seeing. Because if they have the eyes of faith, they can believe. If believing is seeing, then they can see that Jesus has risen from the dead as he said he would. If believing is seeing, they can see that the emptiness of the tomb does not mean that he's gone. He's just not among the dead. If believing is seeing, they can also see that their own lives are also for a purpose, and that we are brought to new life, all of us who follow Jesus. But believing is not just some sort of mental gymnastics. You know, I think of Simone Biles doing her floor exercise where she's twisting and going flying all over the place. And I think some people think that faith is doing that with our brain. Somehow that we twist around and try to believe something that doesn't seem to make sense. That's not faith. I'm not sure what it is. Faith is simply accepting. Accepting the unseen, accepting the unknown. It's not irrational, but it goes beyond rationality. Belief says, I am willing to put my life on the line, whether it makes sense or not, because this will bring me to life. Believing always leads to action. Believing always leads to taking a risk. And when we believe, we can truly see. I had a friend in college, and we were a group of 3 or 4 or 5 of us that would often sit around late at night, talk about the mysteries of life and what should be done and what we were going to do with our lives. And my friend Tom had this habit of listening closely and always saying, I see what you mean. I see your point. I see it now. And what was ironic to me was Tom was physically blind. But that was his favorite line. I see what you mean. We have to go beyond the physical sight. And with the gift of believing and faith, we can see. So if you have a chance, I want you to look closely at the 14th station. When the artist depicted the stations for this cross, and these are one-of-a-kind stations, he did something on the 14th station. And if you look closely to the top left, you realize it doesn't end with Jesus going into the tomb. And it shouldn't end for us either.